Hey Joe,
Hi, how are you doing?
good man. How are you?
Very good today. A little
Excellent.
talked out. We just finished a 2 hour plus live YouTube event, so my voice is a bit scratchy, but
All good, dude. I'll keep it to the point, and we'll get it all done. So I need to
uh,
ask straight off the bat. The album's out today. It's out now. Everyone can go and get it. Out
yes.
through earMUSIC. Where did the title come from and the concept come from?
I had this song that had the weirdest tone starting it off, and it sounded to me like some kind of snarling alien elephant thing, and it's got me thinking about a sci-fi story. And so I developed this whole story as like my backstory, my motivation. So the Earth's scientists create a terraformed technology, and they terraform Mars, and they make it a beautiful garden planet. They mistakenly create a race of gigantic sentient elephants who have telepathic powers, and they communicate to the new Mars colonists that it's time to take control of the planet and keep it pure and away from Earth's evil corporation. So that's what sort of drove me to write and play the way I did on it. And then when I told that story to the other guys in the band, it kind of motivated them to kind of loosen up and go crazy too.
Okay, so is there like a fleshed out concept, like almost like a book, or is just
You
a
know,
basic
uh,
concept?
one of the first guys I told the story to was my writing partner at Satch Ned Evett.
Yep.
And he's such a great, prolific writer. And we're always having these long conversations where we bounce ideas off of each other that turn into stories like Crystal Planet. And so, yeah, within about 24 hours, he had written a whole backstory and came up with a better version of how the elephants got there, and, the prequel and the sequel and everything. So we hope to develop it more fully as time goes on.
The reason, like, I asked that specifically is, as someone that doesn't have a lot of familiarity with instrumental music, um, the one thing I get from this album in particular is that a lot of the songs have these melody lines that you feel were meant for a singer, like that lyrics were put there, and then you've taken the lyrics out and replaced your guitar melody lines with it. Has any of that taken place in any of the songs?
Not like that. It's not really like that. I mean, I do imagine singing as a way of editing myself so that the guitar melodies don't have too many notes in them. Basically, that's the simplest way of expressing it. It goes a little deeper than that. It's more nuanced than that. But if I was forced to generalize, I'd say, yeah, if you play too many notes, people don't know if you're soloing or riffing or showing off or what. So if you really want to present a melody, you should present it the way a singer would present a melody, or a horn or a violin in a piece of classical music or jazz or something like that. If you just take lyrics, let's say a song that was originally written by a singer, and you get rid of the words, you wind up with notes that aren't really strong enough on their own. So it doesn't really work backwards very well. But you bring up an interesting point. The first single from the album was a song called Sahara. And I originally had composed that thinking that Ray Thistlethwaite, my keyboard player, who's a great singer, would be able to sing it. So I supplied him with lyrics and the whole demo and the whole outline. The problem was, I think, number one, my lyrics were probably too much like guitar players' lyrics, maybe too many words or something. And it was too big of a concept to try to think about, like, how are we going to fit this into an instrumental record? And it kind of got pushed to the side in favor of other songs we were working on. And my producer was just a real champion of that song. And so he said, why don't you try rewriting it as an instrumental? So that took a while, because I had to really deprogram my vision of Ray singing, out of my memory, and come up with a brand new melody. But I'm happy it turned out the way it did. It turned into a really beautiful, exotic, sort of dreamy instrumental.
Yeah, and a lot of the songs are like that though, where the melody line is, you can just weave in and out of it with all the instruments, and there's this undercurrent through all of the songs of just so much melody. So when you sit down to write a song, do you flesh out the melody first and then build around it? Or do you have like a bed track and you just go, okay, I'm going to see what happens and write this melody?
Yeah, wow. Boy, I've done it so many different ways. I don't think there's one that I can depend on. But after I get going, I'd have to say that the discipline of editing is the most important part.
Yep.
It really is. And it's very much like a writer versus, like a 6-year-old trying to write a poem. A 6-year-old kid only knows a couple of words, really, when it comes down. Right? They know a few hundred words or something that they can pull together for a poem they're writing in kindergarten. But someone who is a professional writer, they're kind of spoiled for choice. Their vocabulary is huge, and they really have to spend a lot of time figuring out, well, which one of these 80 versions am I going to use to describe the word snow? Because they know that many. So for a professional musician playing a melody, it's very much the same. We have so much at our disposal. The key is to get rid of the stuff that we instinctively know will not help the story. So don't play it. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's quantity of notes that you have to get rid of. Sometimes it's the sound of the guitar or the way that you finger the note or pick it or you don't pick it. There could be so many elements that you have to go and very specifically look at and say, it's not about Joe and how good he is on guitar. It's about this melody and if it's eliciting the proper feeling from the listener. So it's hard when you can play a lot and you like playing to slow down.
Now I can see a bunch of gear next to you, behind you, all around, and you would have had so much at your disposal as usual when making an album. What was the craziest bit of equipment or technique you pulled out of the bag for this album?
Well, it's a funny response I got for you, because all this great gear that you see behind me, I play through it every day. I really love it. However, on the album, I use no amps. I just use a very old SansAmp plugin that was made by Avid back in the 90s. And it's not even a modeler. I mean, it's that old. It was not my intention to do that. We started out thinking the album would start remotely, but eventually we would be able to get together and finish it properly like before, but that never happened. And so I wound up, reamping all my DI tracks in a normal way. But at the final analysis, the SansAmp generated guitar tracks always sounded better. It was as if that particular plugin brought more of my personality forward, whereas the other ones just made me sound like typical, rock guitarist in a Marshall, typical, rock guitarist in a PV or whatever. Yep. But that SansAmp was like, wow, every song sounds like more like your personality that you're trying to push out on that song. So we wound up using that. It surprised us because we thought we'd at least mix and match, but we never did. But I should point out that those tracks that I generated here in my home studio were eventually mixed by Greg Collar, and he would, take the tracks off of Pro Tools, put them into $50,000 Fairchild limiters, Les Paul's very own LA2A, the most coveted tube EQ gear and everything, and tube old school stuff. And before bringing it back into Pro Tools to print and then mix. So it benefited from a lot of old school traditional tube gear, but it got its start with the SansAmp plugin.
Okay, cool. And now you talk about remote working. Now with that, to me, it must have its own sort of set of challenges. Like, was there ever a track you sent off to one of your bandmates and you've gone, here's what I've got in mind, and they've sent it back and it's like been completely opposite, but you've gone, never thought of it like that? We're keeping it.
Many times. There were times where, I'd be reminded by Eric, my producer, that, something I sent to him, not paying too much attention to, was actually a stunning recording and we should keep it. And then just the opposite. I'd send him something I was very proud of, and he'd say, "That's really great. Now please do it again because quality is not up to snuff." One of the things that happened recording remotely was just happy accidents. Probably the funniest is me sending a track off to Ray in Australia. He put a solo on it that was brilliant, but he put it in the wrong place in the song. But once I heard it, I thought, well, I'm just going to leave it there and I'll rewrite the rest of the song so that that new placement makes sense. And I'm really happy I did. I mean, when you're making albums and you're in a room together, you would react that way. If somebody does something you like, you go, "Oh, great idea. Let's adjust, before we do our next take." So there was, as you said, there's a bit of a time lag when you're sending really large Pro Tools files through the internet and you're waiting for people to open them up and work on them and send them back. But ultimately, I think everybody really enjoyed being on their own and having the time to develop their performances rather than, looking at the clock on the wall and knowing, yeah, I got between now and 3 o'clock to finish this, because we got another song to do before dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
The beauty of me as a listener for this, like with this album, is, to me, I don't see the songs as songs. I see them a lot as a whole bunch of textures layering up on each other that sort of really interplay. So when you're bringing that stuff together, is it about creating different textures to you that then become a song, or is it always a song in your head?
Oh, it's always a song first. I'm pretty sure that every time I start a song, I'm confident that, although I don't know where the textures are going to come from or what they'll be, that we'll have fun doing that. But that's a job for later. And it's a job that we only do if we have a good song. You know what I mean? So you got to have a good song first for a couple of reasons. Number one, your fans will know right away if it's not a good song, no matter how many textures you lay on it. And the other thing is that you won't be properly inspired to perform if the song's no good. So it's a really big waste of time unless you have a good song.
Sure. And was there a song on the album that you may have written predominantly on keyboard that then got flipped to guitar, or vice versa?
Well, there are a lot of songs that started on keyboards because I wanted the keyboards to have, play a very big role. So you have one song like Faceless that, I wrote that on piano and knew that I wanted the piano to accompany the guitar in a certain way. So that meant the guitar really didn't play any rhythm guitar. It wasn't like a riff song, like Tension and Release starts with those 7-string guitars. So there's very different kind of a thing. The songs, I think the songs Pump In and Night Scene were primarily done on keyboards first. And then I thought about how I could play guitar to it later on. And that really helped with the vibe, because I was going to ask everybody in the band to play a little bit differently than perhaps they had before. And so it helped to have a kind of an automated demo first, and then to slowly add sort of old school guitar elements to it and see how that affected everybody.
You actually mentioned Faceless earlier. So I've seen you mention before it's a track about loneliness and people being separated. Which in 2022, funnily enough, a lot of places are getting out of lockdown, but I still feel like we're very separated as a society. So what do you think people can do better to stop being so divided and so separated in life?
Well, you got to be civil, you got to be kind, always choose the higher path, control your lower base instincts. We are a crazy, insane bunch of animals, that's for sure. But there's hope, I think, and every moment of interaction, there's an opportunity to be good. And that's all you just always choose that. That's the easy answer. You know what I mean?
Excellent. Now, this is your first solo outing through earMUSIC. Now, I know they've done the Chickenfoot catalog in the past. So is that why you went with ear, based on what they did for Chickenfoot in the past, or is it a totally new relationship for you?
Well, certainly they proved themselves to be a fantastic record company, not only with Chickenfoot, but with all the artists that they handle. Really good company overall. And I really like working with Max Vaccaro. I met him back when we started talking about Chickenfoot catalog. So I've known Max for a very long time. And we're like, brothers of guitar world. We love guitar, we love rock music, and we always thought about doing some kind of project together. It was by coincidence that after Shapeshifting came out and the lockdowns were starting to sort of roll one into the next, that my record deal with Sony, which had really had its start back in 1989, was really coming to an end. I'd been doing albums for them based on option periods for maybe the last 6 or 7 albums, Yep. So, for people who don't understand that, you sign a deal for a set number of albums, and then the label says, and we have, a couple of options where every 2 years we get to say, would you like to do another one for us? We'd love to have one. So I guess we reached the end of that, and I thought, well, maybe this is a good moment. Everything's changing in the world, and I want to do something really different. And so I still love albums, and I love the concept of an artist putting everything they have into a package of songs that they can then travel the world with. It's really exciting and artistically satisfying for me. Some labels really are, they're just favoring TikTok, period. That's all they want to talk about. Yep. And so because of my experience and my length of time playing music and writing albums, I really just thought, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to do singles. I don't want to be playing guitar in front of my phone all the time. I really want to make albums, big statements that can become the soundtrack to history in people's lives,
Oh, thank you for that answer. That was great. Every artist, when they put out their newest album, always wants it to be the best, or some will always say it's the best, regardless. For you, you're always trying to better yourself with every release. What's sort of one technique or change you've made coming into this album that is different from the albums of your past, where you've gone, oh, that's a good one, I'm going to carry forward for future albums?
It's so subtle. I don't even think my examples will, be hearable, I don't know, audible. I don't know if that's the right way of expressing it, but, over the years, I can break down my technique every day to the smallest components, and I can notice, what I do with my thumb when I'm picking in a certain area, or what happens to my little fingers joint when I'm trying to do some kind of a stretch, and I go, oh, that's really odd. That's just particular for my anatomy. I should work on that. And so I'll work on that as part of my daily routine, things that the audience never hears, but they're part of the mechanical aspect of playing the guitar. And I need to, as a guitar player, address it. Otherwise, if I don't address it, it may turn into a problem, let's say, yep. A year down the line, trying to play something on stage. So there were 2 little things actually I did, which is I figured out a way to be able to pick faster, which has never been like my forte. I've got some really amazing friends like Steve Vai and John Petrucci who could just like pick like crazy. You can't throw any combination of picked patterns at them that they can't do. Paul Gilbert, same way. They're just very adept with that. And I've always sort of found that to be super challenging. So I took the time to work on that to get a little bit better at that. And I can hear it on the record. I don't know if anybody else could. The other thing would be a fingering thing, which is definitely no one can hear, but I know that I was able to play certain combinations of notes because I had solved that one particular issue with being able to curl my fingers at the right moment. So, but I have a suspicion that that's kind of age-based, that I'm going to be working on that a lot. Okay. But the fact I'm 65, and I've been playing a long time, these things are starting to pop up. Cool. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Vai, do you see a crazy guitar like the Hydra in your future with, ridiculous amounts of necks and all kinds of stuff going on it?
No. As a matter of fact, when I saw that, I was laughing because, you know, Steve and I always trade music with each other way before the record company gets the stuff, you know, and
Yes.
and we really value each other's critiques. And so I knew what was going on with that thing, and he had sent me some videos of him playing, which is insane. You know, he's a genius. But I kept thinking, like, first of all, Steve, you can't be thinking of wearing that. You know, he's already got really bad shoulder issues, so he's got to have it on a stand. So I warned him about that. But then privately, I was thinking, who's going to change the strings? And then, you know, like, if you're a young kid, how could you afford strings for a 3-neck guitar?
Yep.
It's hard enough to save enough money to just have one good pack for a 6-string.
A guitar tech's nightmare.
It is.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of guitar players, what new breed of guitar players for you are making a statement like in 2022?
You know, it's funny. I see a lot of players excelling in the, you know, the blues area where they're just really paying homage to the older players, but yet breathing some new life into it, you know. Artur Menezes, I think is a great example of that. Artur's just really great at that. You know, paying homage, but at the same time, fresh, new, enthusiastic blues music. Some younger metal players are playing things that are so amazing. They're so intricate, and they're pushing the technique of guitar playing to unbelievable, you know, areas. Yo Onatan, Yasnamura, Jason Richardson. There are lots of players that I watch on Instagram that totally blow my mind. Could never do what they're doing, but I love watching them, and then pick up my guitar and go, okay, now do your thing, get better at your thing, you know.
Yep.
Very inspirational. You know, Tosin and Javier and Animals as Leaders, that's, I mean, no one's ever done that, period. I mean, that's like so new. And maybe it's so new, people, you know, the general public can't quite fathom what's happening.
Yeah.
But it's really, really amazing. That's a lot of physical, musical, heart, intellect, all firing at once to get that to happen. That's truly amazing.
Awesome. I was really lucky to be at your very last Brisbane show.
Oh, great.
So it was really cool. And I was the guy in the photo pit annoying you with his camera. So that was even better. When do you think we'll see you down here next?
Oh, it'll have to be next year. Our first tour this year will be in North America starting at the end of September. And as long as that goes great, we'll be in Europe April 1st to finally get to that 2020 tour that we canceled 3 times.
Yep.
And then after that, we hope that the rest of the world and both hemispheres will let us come and play.
Well, what's that release going to be like when you get over to Europe after, you know, three false starts? Like it's got to feel good.
Yes, yeah, I really can't wait. I mean, it's going to be such a wonderful release of you know, pent up music. It's gonna be great.
What song from the new album are you really thinking will translate the most on that live stage? I know you hope all of them will and everyone connects with them all, but is there one for you personally?
We're going to find out. I mean, we put it to our fans today on our YouTube event to let us know, you know, what their favorites would be. They just have to go to satriani.com and register to fill out the form, and they can just let us know. You know, we know we're always going to be playing Surfing and Summer Song and Flying in a Blue Dream, and I love playing those. I'm still working on getting them right. And you know, and we like to try to hit, you know, the most popular ones from all the albums, so that those people who come to see me for the first time can hear, you know, those particular songs that they know so well. And, you know, not every song works on the stage. Some of them are really about being in a private setting or, you know, putting on your headphones or something like that. So, yeah, that's going to be a very interesting thing that we experience, to see, you know, if it's going to be Sahara, is that going to be the thing that, you know, really rocks the house because of its tempo? And, you know, because as you play in a bigger place, super fast things don't work. You know, in a club, something really fast, if there's only 200 people in a small club, fast is good because people are like, they can reach out and touch you. But if you're playing in front of 40,000 people, just sounds like a blur, you know? So you have to really think about how you're going to reach the venue, each venue you go to. So I'll let you know what we decide.
Perfect. And as we finish up today, do you have any final words for all of your friends in Australia?
Oh, well, thank you so much for listening, and hold tight, and we'll be there. I guarantee you, we're going to try everything we can to be there. In the meantime, if you'll be so kind as to lend me your very own Ray Thistlethwaite to join the band, I'd be very grateful, because we think he's amazing.
You know, Ray, stop touring with Thirsty Merc and go get over the plane with Joe. Get on tour, get it moving. Come on.
Yes.
Awesome, Joe. Thanks so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you hopefully in 2023, and congrats on the album. It's just, there's some super cool stuff on there.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Nice to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.